Welcome back to our special coverage. I'm Ari Melber. Tomorrow is a big moment. A police officer put on murder trial, being held potentially accountable for these actions that led to the killing of George Floyd. And what was Floyd even being arrested for? Well, he'd allegedly used a counterfeit bill. Police also shot at Jacob Blake. He was walking away from police, going into a car that reportedly had his 3 children. He was shot 7 times, paralyzing him. But what about the racial double standard? It was in the news again this past week, which drew comparisons back to Dylan Roof, a man armed with a rifle who gunned down 9 innocent victims in church. Police didn't fire 1 shot at him. Indeed, they carefully and methodically apprehended him. In fact, you can see officers calmly handcuffing him and leading him into the back of that car there. This is the exact racial double standard at play over and over in different places around the country, the same double standard. People are not being treated the same by police. I repeat, police are not treating people the same. Now take a look at George Floyd in the moments before he was killed.
Here he was beforehand. He was being walked out. He was not armed. He was restrained, but he was then held in that chokehold, pleading the same words, "I can't breathe." Now, Floyd told the police he was claustrophobic and was afraid to get in the car, according to the arrest affidavit. So we know that from police. We don't have more information from Floyd because they killed him. It's an incident that, of course, has shocked many in America, not because it occurred. Police killings of civilians are frequent, but shocking because, like the Blake interaction, it was caught on tape. Now, most Americans have seen the citizen-made video of Floyd's killing. That's a piece of it on the right hand of your screen. But it's worth seeing the context of these other arrests, like Dylan Roof, how police peacefully subdued a mass murderer and other killers who were white, while escalating interactions with a black man up to the point where Minnesota authorities allege that what turned that into a crime scene, a murder scene, was what police did. George Floyd literally could not move. He couldn't breathe. And then he was killed. Now, this is the double standard. This is the inequity. This is what protesters are protesting, the racism. But what about the law? Well, some people emphasize, well, these people, some of them, apparently were resisting arrest. Republican Lindsey Graham stressing that in the new case with Blake, saying he didn't yield.
I don't know what happened there. Let's find out. It's dangerous being a cop. I don't know why the gentleman didn't yield when he was asked to yield. I don't know what the facts are.
Now, people say fleeing the police is illegal. And it is. It's also illegal to drive over the speed limit or be late on your taxes. The punishment for resisting arrest, like those infractions, is not the death penalty. Not in court, not in a summary execution without trial on the street by self-appointed state executioners. Now, this is important. It's illegal for police to use deadly force on someone fleeing. Under the law, they may only use such force if that person possesses the actual ability to kill or gravely injure people, the police or other people who are around. They have to have evidence of that. And this is what they call fundamental law. Cops and lawyers know it because it was a major Supreme Court decision.
Today, in a decision written with great emotional intensity, the Supreme Court ruled that police may not shoot at a fleeing suspect unless there's good reason to believe the suspect might kill or injure the police or others.
And how did the Supreme Court come to even rule on that issue 35 years ago? Now, remember, the court only rules on things that actually happen. It doesn't just issue a random opinion about an idea. Something has to actually happen that then is appealed through the system all the way to the highest court. In this instance, a police shooting so bad, even by the standards of the Reagan-era crackdowns on what was a higher crime rate, so bad that the court drew a line. Now, what kind of case would that be? Well, you're watching the news. You live in America. I bet you already have some idea, even if you don't remember the case. Police killed a black child, unarmed. He weighed about 100 pounds and was 15 years old. He was running away, not a threat to anyone, but he had stolen allegedly $10.
One of those killed was Edward Garner, a 100-pound unarmed 15-year-old who died one night on this fence in Memphis after he failed to heed a police warning to stop as he fled with $10 and a purse from an empty house.
I don't see no reason why they should have shot him, and no reason whatsoever.
No reason. $10. 15 years old. That was too much even for a Reagan-era Supreme Court all those decades ago. Now, it's as illegal today as it was then when the Supreme Court ruled it. That's the law. But here we go. You say, all right, Ari, you're telling me all this stuff and all this law. What's the point? The point is the system, which rarely investigates and punishes police when they break those laws, leaving so many black families objectively afraid of literally any potential police interaction because it clearly, methodically, objectively, historically documented has a real risk of turning deadly in minutes. All of this comes full circle because that's what civil rights leaders were warning about long before even that Supreme Court decision. You can go all the way back to the 1960s when Stokely Carmichael addressed how white fear can drive police brutality.
White people would have to admit that they are afraid to go into a black ghetto at night. They are afraid. That's a fact. They're afraid because they be beat up, lynched, looted, cut up, etc., etc. That happens to black people inside the ghetto every day, incidentally. And white people are afraid of that. So you get a man to do it for you, a policeman. And now you figure his mentality where he's afraid of black people. The first time a black man jumps, that white man gonna shoot him. He's gonna shoot him. So police brutality is going to exist on that level.
He's going to shoot him, and police brutality will exist on that level. Now, here we are. It's 55 years after that address, and the facts and the law can only take us so far when at the root of it is systemic racism thwarting even the laws that have been passed to address some of this. Now, the killing of George Floyd is tragic, but must be viewed in the wider context. On the right, you have police who made him a dead, innocent man, while on the left, you have police who carefully let convicted murderers live, with a lunch order if they wanted. Just 4 years ago was when Colin Kaepernick took that knee during the national anthem. He was kneeling in protest of all of this. It was silent. It was peaceful against systemic racism and violence that has been plaguing the nation. And we all lived through the criticism that he faced for that peaceful protest and that retaliation. And now people protest in Wisconsin and again around the nation and inside the NBA, going back at the same thing. It is tragic. It is wrong that Stokely Carmichael's wisdom applies so seamlessly to today's America. He also said, quote, "We're tired of trying to explain to white people that we're not going to hurt them, when the question is, will white people overcome their racism?" End quote.
We have been talking about race in this country since it was founded. If you use race as a prism, we are still a very young democracy because for so long, people were not allowed to participate in their own lives, their freedom, let alone voting or equal justice under the law. Here we are on the eve of this trial tomorrow, and we have more and more of the same evidence and the same arguments with the question, will America do anything about it?
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.